I think maybe the worst thing about not being able to clone yourself, except maybe, that one can like go do dishes while you read, is not being able to read everything that I want. And that leads to making some tough cuts on the schedule. And there's quite a few fantasy ones that I'm going to talk about now. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back to talk a little fantasy, and here is the big thing about this is I have talked recently about wanting to inject more science fiction on the channel. I felt like last year I did a ton of fantasy. I did a good chunk of horror towards the end of the year, and science fiction really kind of got the boot. But here's the deal. I'm moving that up a bit this year, but that means that I have to pull back on some of the fantasy. Obviously, there are things like Malazan, there are things like Robin Hobb, there are things like R.F. Kuang that are already kind of locked into the schedule. So those aren't going anywhere, but there were some series that I did have to kind of pull off of the schedule for 2021 because I just don't have enough time to read everything. And I'm going to talk about some of those now just because I keep getting so many questions about are you reading that this year or not. Now, beforehand, I want to list a couple of series that were never in the plans for 2021. While I'm reading Malazan, I said I want to stick with short series, trilogies, things like that, completed series. So that kind of led to me not wanting to inject anything heavy or anything I felt like would take a big time commitment. So I won't be reading Prince of Nothing this year by R. Scott Baker. Even though my guy Slowly Read, if you haven't checked out Slowly Read's channel, that dude's so grimdark, he makes me seem like a Disney character. So I'll link his channel below. But he talked on and on about this. I was like, man, you're really making me struggle with kicking that to 2022. But that's a series I'll be kicking to 2022. And I always plan to do it that way. Same with Tad Williams. This is one that my brother's been begging me to read since the year 2000, guys. So that's in the plans for 2022 to read some Tad Williams. And of course, The Black Company is the next big, long series I'm going to tackle after Malazan. Depending on how Malazan's going, I might go ahead and try to counter it in 2022 because while I've heard it's long, I haven't heard it's super heavy or something like a Malazan, so I might be able to consider it then. And the other one, I don't have any copies of it yet, and that kind of helped make that decision, is the Elric series by Michael Morcock. That's a series that anytime I do a video like this, people always want to know where Elric is. Well, like I said, first I have to secure copies of those books. And second, it was never meant to be for 2021. But let's go ahead and talk about those books that kind of got the knife in the back, so to speak, for this year. Now, before I go on with this, I want you guys to realize that none of these decisions were made lightly. This was I had to do some soul searching to decide what I was going to try to do this year. And I felt like the Malazan thing kind of played in that decision for where I place some of this stuff. But most of these I have planned for 2022. Or God forbid later. Like I said, I don't plan to stop reading anytime soon. But let's go ahead and talk about a couple of them. Obviously, the Raira Chronicles, which is the prequel series to Raira Revelations. And I know you're like, but Mike, you haven't finished that yet. Yes, I will be finishing Heir of Novron this year and finishing up Raira Revelations. So Chronicles, probably not going to happen this year. Just, again, a victim of the numbers. But like I said, I consider Michael J. Sullivan one of my automatics now that I'm going to read anything that he writes. Just maybe not up front. And, the fact that he signed all these, that makes me want to read it even faster because signatures are fun, right? Great dude. If you just email Michael J. Sullivan and talk to him, he'll talk to you about the series. Great dude, by the way. Another one, tough decision. Brian McKellen's Powder Mage Trilogy. Because I think that this is one of the most recommended ones that I get on the channel. There's a lot of people who say it's very Sanderson-like, and there's some people who say it's better than Sanderson. I mean, again, this isn't me saying these things. This is just me using quotes verbatim from people who comment on the channel. But a lot of fans of this series will be very disappointed to hear I won't be doing that this year. But again, stick around, and it will eventually happen. Next up, this one sucked to cut off. And the reason that I decided to do it is because he is going to be putting out the third and final book in this series, and I plan to just read them all in a row in 2022. And why it sucks is because not only did he send me a signed hardcover copy, it's someone that I would consider a friend at this point. And I'm talking, of course, about my good buddy Brian Lee Durfee, 5 Warrior Angels. I want to read this series so bad. There's so many people on the Discord who cannot shut up about how great this series is. It's just, I had already cut my schedule, and I was like, at this point, I'll just wait for him to finish. That way I can just read them all back to back to back like I did with John Gwynn last year. And that's what I'm going to do with his series. So it sucks. But again, if you guys haven't been watching Brian Lee Durfee's BookTube channel, you're missing out. One of the funniest BookTube channels out there for sure. But I'm sure his writing is every bit as insanely amusing and entertaining as his YouTube channel is. So Brian, I'm sorry, I will be reading your series. You have my word for it in 2022. I can't wait to finally dive into it. Another one I don't have a copy of. I have it on digital. This is Book of the Ancestor by Mark Lawrence. And I know I did the series I wanted to start, but I started looking closer at the numbers. I'm not going to be able to get it this year. It's just, again, victim of the numbers game, guys. With Mark Lawrence, I feel like that's probably one of the most popular fantasy authors that I haven't read a lot of. I kind of punted on the last book in Broken Empire. And people have told me that they think that Book of the Ancestor would be more my bag with what I'm looking for. So it sucks, but again, 2022 is shaping up already to be a great, great year. Let's carry on. Now, when I said some of these series kind of, took a knife in the back, so to speak, all I could think of was Joe Abercrombie, because, that's just his writing style. And that's why it's kind of ironic that he's on this list. The Shattered Sea trilogy just keeps getting kicked down the road. I just have to be in the mood to read some YA. And I don't know, even Joe can't seem to get me to want to do that. I do want to read it because it's Joe. It's again, no time. I've heard so many mixed things about this series, so I don't really know what to expect. Some people say it's still really, really good. It's just, I read Joe Abercrombie for that dark, twisted humor and bleak world, and it's just, I don't know, taking those things away from him. That I don't know. That seemed like you've been asking Michael Jackson to record an album but not dance. Well, why would you have done that? So I don't know. It's kind of feel sick about putting that one on here. Next up is the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. I didn't even have these until recently. A patron actually sent these to me. Thank you so much. But I didn't even have it really on my radar to do this year, but it is one that people ask about a lot. So it was one that was kind of under consideration. That was a, I don't want to say it was an easy cut, but it was one of the easier of these because it's so new to me. I haven't had those years of anticipation waiting for it like I have some of these other ones, like Anna Smith Sparks' The Empires of Dust series. She calls herself Queen of the Grimdark, which is a play on Joe Abercrombie's Lord Grimdark. She was very nice to me on social media when I bought the books and said that after I read them, hit her up and she would send me some merchandise and stuff like that. So that's always really nice of someone to do without asking for anything in return. This one actually got kicked because I'm reading Poppy War. I said it was going to be one or the other. I had to decide between those. And the fact that Poppy War was ending and there was so many people still talking about it, I went ahead and went with Poppy War. It wasn't easy. It was really a coin flip there, because her series is complete too. But I thought, I'm going to be reading so many kind of bleak series this year. Maybe not adding something that a lot of people have called just plain nihilism would not be the best plan there. I started some Conan last year. I wanted to keep going in Robert E. Howard's world with Solomon Kane. Very, very tough cuts because, Robert E. Howard stuff, you can kind of fly through it. His books or his stories are, 12 to 30 pages each, but he packs so much into them. So that might still be one that I try to find a way to kind of filter in when I can. But I haven't even finished those Conan stories yet. So if I do get some more Robert E. Howard this year, it'll be more of those Conan stories because I really like what I read in Coming of Conan. So there'll probably be more Conan coming this year. I might actually review the Coming of Conan eventually sometime this year. And last up, I have the what's it called? The Song of Shattered Sands. Now I apologize if I'm saying this name right. Bradley Bollier, I believe. Have the first book here, 12 Kings. Again, it was one I found out about recently. So I tried to play the, okay, you've been waiting for this. Like so many people want me to cut Elric to the front of the line. Like, look, Robin Hobb and Black Company and Tad Williams have to come before those because I've been putting them off for so long. So yes, a lot of stuff, you'll get excited and you'll want to cut it to the front of the line. I get that. But yeah, with those some of these series, the newer ones that I just heard about, no matter how exciting they sound, trying to stand my ground. I actually think that Bradley Beaulieu is writing the last book in that series sometime this year, so we might be doing a full series if I read that first book and like it. So that's really, there are a couple of borderline ones. These are ones I'm still hoping to get in sometime this year, and I did bring her up. Anna Stevens, I did bring her up on my new series or new authors I want to try this year. I still very much want to get to this. It's just, it's borderline. It's going to depend on how I'm doing with my schedule, trying to balance reading and working and making videos now. So this one is very, very high on my want to read list. So if I have an opportunity, I'm going to do it. The other is the books 2 and 3 in the Ash and Sand trilogy by Richard Nell. I really enjoyed Kings of Paradise. Haven't actually gotten a hold of book 2 or 3 yet. If I have an opportunity to read those this year, it's going to happen because book 1 was really, really good. I'd like to get a review of that done eventually. It's going to happen. I just work just gets in the way sometimes, you know, real life, all that stuff. So guys, what are some stuff that you wanted to read this year that you're afraid you're just not going to have time to do? I hope you'll understand. I just wanted to cover more science fiction this year, so these are things I had to push down the line another year. You know, I think we'll be just fine. We'll have plenty to talk about. Malazans are rolling right along here. I'm starting Robin Hobb sometime this week, so lots of exciting new things coming to the channel. These will just have to wait another year. I hope you understand. So what is your list looking like? Do you plan ahead? I know that nobody plans ahead probably as far as I do what they're going to read. I've already planned the entire year. That's the only way I can stay on a schedule. But I do have some of these as what I call the bench. You know, if I have free time, I'm ahead of schedule or something like that. I'm looking for a fill-in, or maybe like last year where I found myself burned out and I had to move something up. Maybe something like that will come up. We shall see, guys. It's a pretty tough schedule this year. It's pretty locked in as in regards to how I usually am so flexible with my TBR. But, you know, some things will always sneak in there. Just say hi to Licanius. Remember how that worked? Licanius was not even going to happen until 2022 probably. And I read the whole thing last year. So things can and will change. As of now, these shall be waiting. So drop in the comments, guys. Let me know some things that you want to read that you didn't get to this year. And go ahead and ask me, are you reading this year? And I'll probably be able to answer it for you at this point. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you in the comments.